Welcome to Sacred Things. This series of videos is dedicated to sharing truths that the Lord made real to me and helped me to live out as I went through the devastation of sexual sin in my marriage. I call them sacred because they came to me as I cried out to God for the wisdom I so greatly needed during that difficult time. My desire is that you will find hope, direction, practical answers, and spiritual insight into how to deal with and live with a man addicted to sexual sin. Every believer, every true believer, has to face this issue, whether it's a spouse or a child or whoever may have offended you. What Jesus did for us that's the bar, that is the standard.
As you were experiencing the power of forgiveness, living, you said that you had the power to forgive him. It still requires an active effort on our part, is that right?
Yeah.
And because you're constantly being faced with the present reality.
Yeah.
And so what were some ways that you continued to allow that power to work in your life?
Well, it was hard. I do want to say that I didn't realize, it took me a little bit to figure out that power was there for me. And yeah, I often confused the feelings of rejection, the betrayal. I confused that, the feelings of that, the devastation of those feelings, confused that with I didn't forgive him, or if I got angry, if I got really just crying, just have fits of crying. I confused that with a lack of forgiveness. That wasn't a lack of forgiveness. That was just going through human emotion and loss and just, all the stuff that a woman has to go through. The forgiveness was my active participation in it, was just in my will. I'm letting him go free. I am not going to hold him prisoner because I'm the one who's in prison. My unwillingness to let him go free isn't doing anything to him. Other than the wall is being built higher and higher in the relationship, making it even more hard to reconcile and get past stuff. My unwillingness creates that wall too. But my willingness to forgive him makes it possible for me to live with a guy who's still struggling, and that's a whole nother issue. Is he struggling or is he just giving over to it? Can't go into that right now, but I would just say this, that when I realized that I could freely give what had been freely given to me, I wallowed in it. I loved it. I loved being able to walk in freedom, because the torture, man, of the bitterness of unforgiveness was killing me. And that's what it does to wives. I know women. I've been doing this for a long time. I know several women who are in prison because they refuse to forgive. And they're not hurting anybody but themselves. They've cut themselves off from the life of God. They think they're walking with the Lord because they know how to say Christian things and post things on Facebook that sound Christ-like, but they are so far from that life of God that begins with forgiveness.
Is there a way, because what I'm hearing is that it's in a lot of ways it's a matter of perspective. It's about what you see. If you're constantly seeing his actions, his betrayal, his rejection of you, then that's going to influence your thinking and your feeling and your responses. How do you start to see something else that helps you to forgive?
Yeah, that's hard. That is very hard. that it's really, really hard to not see that stuff because you've grown accustomed to the behaviors, the attitudes, the conversations. You know, pretty much women get it, that something's going on or they're stuck. They're just stuck and all they can see is him, what he's doing, always looking over your shoulder, always worried. What's going on? What's on his phone? What's he doing on his computer? What's he doing at work? It's just this loop. It's just constant. The way that I did it, I just made a break. I don't know how else to explain that. I made a break with that. I could not bear up under the weight of trying to manage my husband's brain. And I chose to trust the Lord. I put him in God's hands. I had to surrender control, and that is so hard for a wife because you feel, it's just in you. You want to make him do the right thing, and you think it's not, these things are not like right here. They're back here somewhere. And you think that if you can monitor him and manage him, you can manage and monitor him out of bad behavior. But that is the biggest lie. You cannot change another person. It's not possible. You can badger someone, you can berate them, you can threaten them, you can do all that. That does not change the heart or the will of another person. And that just takes you deeper and deeper into the inability to forgive. You're looking at the wrong person.
Yeah, and that's what I was hearing, was that you started seeing another person besides just him. And that the sight of Jesus was giving you strength that you wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
How? But how? How does a wife start seeing him in her daily life so that she has that power?
Well, it's a few things. I would say the first thing is a willingness to let go of the monitoring. This is big. This is huge for women.
Just to not go there in her thinking.
Just quit looking. Quit expecting failure. Quit waiting for the shoe to drop. Quit waiting for that rug to get yanked out from underneath you. The other thing I did was I got into the Word of God in earnest. And I prayed. And I prayed. And I kept praying because it's really all I had. And I've never been the kind of person to go looking for self-help or, I wasn't going to psychologists or anything like that. I knew where my help would come from. I knew it. Inside, I knew he was the answer. And there was so much grace from the Lord, and I believe that grace is available to any woman who sincerely cries out to him, not just, God save my marriage, but Jesus, I want you, Lord. I want you to be the Lord over all. Just over me, over my mind, over the way I respond, over my marriage, over my husband, but mostly all I want is Jesus. I just have to have him. He will make up the lack. It's a faith issue. Let me put it this way. Jesus is not an add-on. He is the central figure in everything. And if he's not, and an indicator that he's not, is that you are so completely distracted that you can't find your way to him and stay put. I had to learn how to just keep turning away from Steve and turning to Jesus. And when I say turning to Jesus, I mean thinking about him, thinking about who he is, the things he did, the things he said. And when I got into the Word of God, I ate the Word of God. It was daily bread. It was the bread of life. It was like when I read the Word, it was going into me and it would come out of me. It takes time and it's hard. It is very hard. And I don't want to give false impressions that yeah, I'm just a super saint. I wasn't a super saint. I was a super mess. The things I did and gave myself to, I needed a lot of help. And a lot of women didn't do the things I did. And maybe they don't feel that great need. But you do need him every bit as much as I did. And that this whole trial, this fiery, fiery trial, is to bring you near to him. Not to your husband, not to have the happily ever after. It is for you to find Jesus in a much deeper and real way.
If for the woman who is saying to herself, in a sense, like from a detached theological position, I understand that I need to forgive, but I don't even know where to begin. I don't know if I even can. Is it valid to tell the Lord that and to say, help me forgive?
Of course. Yeah. Of course it is. And it's honest. It's real. That is real. What I said earlier is true. This isn't possible in the flesh. It's not. I don't know any woman who's ever been able to forgive infidelity on her own. And if she did, I would say that it's probably not lasting, that it would be like a revolving door. But when it's the Lord, when you have really let Jesus come in and live that out through your life, it's enduring. And that's all I can say about it, because that's all I had. I did not have whatever it takes to be able to forgive somebody. I didn't have that. But when Jesus came in and he gave me that grace, I hung on to it. And it became, for me, I want to forgive him. I really want to. That's the Spirit of God. That's not the spirit of mankind.